I want you to think about a decision you made recently. Maybe it was a conversation you avoided, a habit you promised yourself you'd break, a moment you reacted in a way that surprised even you, and afterward you thought, why do I keep doing this? Here's the uncomfortable answer. You didn't make that decision. Not really. Something older than your intentions did.
Scientists at the Max Planck Institute wired participants to brain scanners and asked them to do one simple thing: press a button whenever they felt like it. What they found stunned the research community. The brain had already fired the decision signal up to 7 seconds before the person was consciously aware of choosing. 7 full seconds. The participant felt like they were deciding, but the decision was already made. What they experienced as free will was just the brain's way of playing back a highlight reel after the fact to keep you feeling like you are in charge. Now stop, because this isn't just about pressing buttons in a lab. Think about the last time you snapped at someone you love. Did you decide to do that, or did it just happen? Think about the last time you opened your phone, not because you wanted to, but because something pulled you there before you even knew what you were doing. Think about the version of yourself that keeps repeating the same patterns, the same avoidance, the same excuses, the same self-sabotage, despite knowing better. That isn't a discipline problem. That isn't a motivation problem. That is a system running on code you didn't write and have never seen.
Here's what most people don't realize, and what costs them years of their life. You are not one person making decisions. You are two systems in constant conflict. The first is the conscious mind, the part of you listening right now, the part that sets goals, makes plans, reads self-improvement content, and genuinely wants a better life. It's articulate, hopeful. It believes in itself. The second is the operating system underneath. It doesn't think in words. It thinks in impulses, emotional charges, and automated responses. It doesn't care about your goals. It cares about survival patterns it learned decades ago. And research shows it controls between 65 and 95% of your daily behavior. Let that land. The part of you that makes plans controls maybe 5% of your actual life. The rest is being run by a system you've never consciously met. And here's the part that nobody wants to say out loud, because it's genuinely uncomfortable. Maybe the version of yourself you've been trying to improve isn't the one making the decisions. Maybe you've been renovating the lobby of a building while something completely different is happening in the basement. Every goal you set, every habit you try to build, every new chapter you announce, it all runs through that basement. And if the basement was built on fear, scarcity, shame, or pain, your plans will keep hitting the same invisible ceiling, and you'll keep calling it bad luck.
Picture a child, 7 years old. They don't see their parents fight openly, but they feel the tension, the silence at dinner, the way the room changes when the wrong thing is said, the way love seems to disappear and reappear without warning. Nobody tells that child anything. Nobody explains relationships or emotional safety or how to communicate. The child's brain does what it was designed to do. It learns. It encodes survival patterns. Don't ask for too much. Stay small. Love is unpredictable. I am the reason things go wrong. These aren't thoughts. They become reflexes, emotional facts, the invisible architecture of how that person will experience every relationship, every conflict, every moment of success or failure for the rest of their life. That child grew up, and they're watching this video right now. I'm not saying your childhood broke you. I'm saying it programmed you, quietly, thoroughly, without your consent. And those programs are still executing, right now, in the way you handle pressure, the way you respond when someone gets too close, the way you either chase success desperately or run from it the moment it becomes real, the relationships you keep choosing, the way you speak to yourself at 2 a.m. when no one can hear. You didn't choose any of that. And the most brutal part? The people who hurt you? Most of them didn't choose it either. They were running their own programs, written by people who were running their own. This goes back generations. You are not just living your life. In many ways, you are living someone else's unresolved story.
Now I need to say something that might be the most important thing in this entire video. You probably believe you are a self-aware person. You probably consider yourself more reflective than average, more intentional. Maybe you read, you think deeply, you've worked on yourself. And that belief that you are the kind of person who knows themselves may be the exact thing protecting the programs you most need to see. Because here's what neuroscience calls the confirmation bias. Your brain is not designed to find truth. It is designed to defend its current model of reality. When information confirms what you already believe about yourself, you absorb it instantly. When it challenges it, even if it's accurate, your brain quietly discards it, generates a counterargument, or finds a way to believe the insight applies to someone else. Which means the version of you that is most convinced they are self-aware may be the least likely to actually see what's running underneath. Think about that for a moment. The confidence you feel about knowing yourself could itself be a feature of the system that keeps you from seeing the system.
Here's something that should disturb you far more than it probably does. The apps on your phone were not built by accident. They were engineered by teams of neuroscientists, behavioral psychologists, and persuasion experts, using the same variable reward mechanics as slot machines, specifically designed to exploit the dopamine system in your brain. The infinite scroll, the notification timing, none of it is accidental. All of it was tested, iterated, and optimized to keep your nervous system in a loop of craving and partial satisfaction. These people studied your brain's weaknesses. They found them, and they built products around them. And you've been handing your attention, your most finite, irreplaceable resource, to systems that were designed by experts to take it from you. But here's what makes this worse. While the algorithm owns your attention, the people around you are quietly shaping everything else. Research on social contagion shows that your emotional baseline, your ambitions, your beliefs about what's possible, your spending habits, your standards for yourself, all of it gradually migrates toward the average of the people you spend the most time with.
So what do you actually do with this? Not a productivity system, not a morning routine, not a 30-day challenge. One thing. Start watching yourself. Not judging, not fixing, watching. When the impulse fires to scroll, to avoid, to snap, to shrink, don't act immediately. Create a gap, even 3 seconds. In that gap, just ask, where is this coming from? You won't always have the answer, but the act of asking begins to change the relationship between you and your programming. Over time, you stop being the reaction. You start becoming the one who notices the reaction. That's not a small thing. That's the entire game.
Here's the realization I want to leave you with. Most people spend their entire lives building a future, chasing goals, working hard, trying to become someone, while being almost completely unconscious of the invisible architecture underneath all of it, the beliefs that pre-approve or veto every decision, the emotional reflexes that shape every relationship, the quiet, automatic voice that decides what they deserve, who they can become, and what is even possible for someone like them. They work on their actions, but the source remains untouched. And so the patterns repeat, and they wonder why nothing ever truly changes, even when everything around them does. Here is the truth. You will never outwork a program you cannot see. The 99% that was decided before you knew enough to choose, it's still running. But there is a 1%. And it isn't the goals you set or the habits you stack. It is the rare, uncomfortable, honest moment when you stop and look directly at yourself. Not the version you perform for others, not the version you've convinced yourself you are. The real one. The one underneath. That is the only place real change has ever come from. And most people go their entire lives without ever meeting it.